welcome back to the Pro Series Podcast. This is episode 134, and today's guest is Rick Torrison. Rick is a transformational leader and growth catalyst. He's an author, which we talk about his book called Born Limitless in the episode, and then we also talk about his work, what he does with entrepreneurs. You know, you go through life and you get these beliefs that you probably don't even know you have growing up, from either it's your parents, and it's not nothing negative that your parents are doing. It's just beliefs that are instilled in you, and they make these roadblocks when you are getting to your professional career and trying to be an entrepreneur and trying to set these goals and get to those goals. And these roadblocks are they're hurdles that you have to get over, and this is what we talk about in this episode. So if you are someone that's just struggling or at a dead end, or know that you have beliefs in your system that you just can't get rid of, this is a great episode for you to listen to. Maybe follow Rick, maybe reach out to Rick for him to help you out. But before we get into that episode, please like, subscribe, and review this podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts. And now I hope you enjoy episode 134 with Rick Torrison. Rick, thank you so much for hopping on the Pro Series Podcast today. Can't wait to talk to you about a project you're working on and your business and how you got into the business.
Man, I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here, Eric. Man, I've really been looking forward to this. I was looking through your social media and all that you do, and man, I got excited. I was like, I'm going to build a home here, and I want you to come help me out. So we'll go to Florida. We'll meet in Florida, hang on the beach. You can design my home.
Okay, and we'll read your new project you're talking about that I'm excited about, and
thank you.
Some other stuff that I want to talk about for topic wise that I'm excited about, like mindset and leadership and stuff. But I kind of want to get into how you got into this business and like just start from the beginning of your professional career. How did it all start? And just take a trip down memory lane. Tell us about how it started.
Well, brother, that's a little scary now. Okay, so this is, how long is this podcast? You're going to find out. I don't have a problem with words. My kids they used to have those school buses that had governors on them, and they don't let you go so fast, and you hit that speed and it's like it would shut down. Like, that's as fast as you could go.
Yeah.
There's a word governor that my kids gave me, and basically when I hit that limit of words, they told me I have to stop talking. So I'm going to try to stay within my governor of words when we're talking here, but I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of the story. So I've got a book coming out called Born Limitless. It's already out. So I'm deep in this place of, it's my first book. I'm learning. It's crazy. The book is really got a lot of my personal stories in it. And I start with that because if I'm going to tell you my story, this book was something in the last year and a half. I was like, man, I need to share what I've learned in this space for me. So I currently am a coach. I do leadership development and training, speaking, coaching, mindset things for people, helping people get from where they are to where they want to be. Mm-hmm. So that's the current reality that I live in. I'm about 60 years old. So my wife and I are looking at what do we want the next 15 years to look like to add value. And so I'm in a different place, right? I'm not building really anymore. I want to build legacy and impact, but I'm not necessarily building business.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am. If I go back to where I started, man, it was a mess. I was a single parent mom, latchkey kid before they knew what a latchkey was, raised by my mother and my grandmother. My mom worked several jobs. My grand worked a lot. My uncle was in and out of the picture. He was a hippie, great dude, but he was a hippie, man. Had the Harleys, had his friends. Just imagine that hippie world. That was in my life. And man, really good man, good person in my life, but definitely different experiences with that. And so that's kind of how I started, just in Illinois, Chicago area. I'm in Texas right now. I chased a girl down here, caught her. We've been married 33 years, but I started Midwest and grew up in that single parent home and had a lot of, I can look back and say this, there was a lot of places in my life that there were some markers. Some were really good. Some weren't so good, right? Trauma places and good things. And what I've realized is those markers, we all have those in our lives. They mark us. They impact our thoughts and our beliefs and how we view the world and relationships and people. And it can be really good, can be really bad, but they impact our mindset, our belief system. And at a young age, we don't think it's happening. We just are living life, interpreting the experiences that we go through. How we interpret those experiences become beliefs that we have about those things, about ourselves, about the world around us, right? And those beliefs then demand action or behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all of our behaviors come from a belief that we have. We just don't think about it.
Yeah.
Those behaviors result in outcomes, right? And I share this because really what marked me is early in my life, there was a lot of things that were marking my journey and how I viewed myself, how I viewed the world. I tell a story in my book about an abuse situation I had about 6 years old with a babysitter. So that's wrong. It's no good. I mean, I've worked through this and talked through it. We all have our stories of things in our lives that probably we wish didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But what I realized in that process as I'm looking back over my life is that that experience that I didn't really have anyone helping me through, it didn't get exposed, it just happened, right? I didn't have any way to reconcile and understand it. So I began to define that experience or interpret it in my head. And I'm looking back thinking about this is what was going on, even though I didn't realize it at 6 years old. And I interpreted it in such a way that said, hey, I must deserve this. I must do something wrong. There must be something wrong with me. And then I would look at this young girl who was my babysitter and go, well, girls must be like this. And I started to define this world. I put glasses on, a lens I started to view the world and myself in that wasn't the most positive. And that stayed with me throughout my life, right? That mindset of how I was viewing that because of that experience began to impact how I believed about myself and how I behaved or acted. Mm-hmm. And those things began to follow me and actually create some limitations and challenges in my life that I didn't realize were happening at the time. So I started out single parent mom. My mom got married when I was 10 years old. So that was cool. Good man. That was a great experience. And then went to school, went to college in Iowa, and then got out of college, started working for a college fraternity. And that whole experience, there were so many things in there that were a little crazy, a little chaotic, really didn't know what I wanted in life. I was really searching and struggling with a lot of things. But I had a degree in education. And while I was working in Indiana for this fraternity, I met this girl. And she was from Texas. And we hit it off, but she was older than me. She was smarter than me. I couldn't play the games I would play with girls. I was like, man, she's messing with me and I got to figure this out. So I ended up chasing her to Texas. And we ended up connecting, getting married, been married 33 years, have two amazing kids, both adopted kids. Share a little bit maybe about that more. But I share that because there's a lot of people who may have adoption stories, right? And it's just a great story. We were with them at birth. But I came down here as a teacher and a coach. So I was a basketball player in high school and college, and came down here to coach high school basketball and teach. So I started doing that. And then my wife was a person of faith. Her family were people of faith. I wasn't. I had never thought about it, never been to church. Faith was not in the spectrum for me. But her dad challenged me one time when I just moved down here. He said, man, you're a cool guy. We like you. We're glad you like our daughter. But if you want to be with our daughter, you got to get your life right with the Lord. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? I was like, yes, sir. And I literally was like, okay, as far as I know, I was the Lord because I was the master of my own destiny, right? I was in control. If I needed something, I went and did it. So I didn't understand this concept. But anyways, I went on a journey of exploration because I really liked his daughter. And through that, really, my life was touched and transformed. Met some amazing people that spoke life to me about this relationship with this faith that really began to speak into my identity, the lies that I had built growing up about who I was, what I was capable of, the mask I put on, that I had been leaving a wake of broken relationships and people behind me because of the way I was viewing the world. That whole thing got turned upside down with this faith experience. I thought, man, this is not how I think about things. If this is true, this thing that was being presented to me, that changes everything. Mm-hmm. And so I explored it and I thought, man, I think this is true. And so it caused me a real mind shift to go, okay, now what do I have to think or believe about myself? And so my faith started speaking in my relationship, it's Christian faith. And that relationship started saying, hey, you were created with purpose and destiny and a future and a hope. And I was like, no one's ever said that to me. No one's ever presented that to me. I've never thought about that. I just was just doing life. So that started to provoke me, but I kept running into walls and struggling. And my wife and I, we got married, but the first 10 years were brutal. I mean, I don't know how we made it. We had a hard time communicating. I was still living with the wounds and holding her at a distance. She had wounds from relationships. She was holding me at a distance. It wasn't that we didn't love each other. We didn't know how to live with each other. And we were probably not going to make it. And then and I share this because this is the trigger for where I'm at today. This guy came into our lives. He was a person of faith, and he began coaching me and my wife, mentoring us. In the church world, they call it discipleship, right? It was counseling, but it wasn't counseling. He just said, I'm gonna invest in you guys. And he started asking me questions about what I believed and what I believed about myself. And he just would challenge some of my limiting thinking and say, well, what if that's not true? Really, what if you actually have a future and hope? What if this was true and this wasn't true? Man, he caused me to really struggle, but in a good way. Right. And so he believed in me and he called things out of me that I had never had anyone do before. And slowly I began to shift my beliefs, which impacted my behaviors, which then started leading to different results in my marriage, in my work, in my life. And things started to shift a little bit. And there was this hope and this possibility and this something greater began to open up. I didn't know what the greater was, but I thought, man, I feel like there is more that I am capable of doing and could engage in. So that's a lot of stuff. So I mean, that was so that brought me to this process of really understanding that our mindsets, how we believe about our lives and our world, can either propel us or can become a ceiling over our lives.
Oh yeah. I think a lot of people, when they hear beliefs, they automatically think political or religious, but it's anything in life. You know, you grow up, parents don't like a certain genre of music or whatever. That stuff is in you that you don't know that was in you. And you don't really see that until you get older and you kind of view life in a different way. And that's kind of, I mean, those things are exactly roadblocks for you.
So that's exactly right. They're roadblocks and obstacles that we don't know how to overcome. So so in the book, there's this framework, and the framework basically is how I coach people. So the limiting beliefs is a part of my coaching, but I coach all kinds of people at all levels in any industry, because I'm not mentoring them to their job specifically. I'm coaching them to their character, to themselves, their personal growth and development, their belief system, their values, their purpose. How they view leadership. I'm coaching to set those foundations that then they can build upon in any area that they're involved in. So I've got people across the board in my coaching world. And the understanding is we have these experiences, like I shared about my babysitter, that I interpreted in a certain manner, which created a belief, which led to a behavior, which led to outcomes that weren't for me. They were hurting me.
Yeah.
So if you think about our own story, like your story, Eric, like limiting beliefs you might have had somewhere in your life and you had to overcome those. Typically, when we have a limiting belief or an outcome we don't like, a fruit, something's happening that we don't like how it's happening, business, professionally, or personally, what do we typically try to do to solve it? What's the first thing we try to do when our behaviors, our actions, our results aren't what we want? And I'm asking, like, what does that look? What do we typically do? Most people typically do what to address the outcomes? What do you think?
Probably something wrong. First,
no. There's not really a wrong. It's just it's an incomplete.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing, they try to do it in a rushed pattern and kind of they're not thinking, and they're doing it mostly out of panic. And they make a bad decision based off of that.
And so we try to change our behaviors, right? Because we're like, oh my gosh, this isn't good. So let me fix it. Let me get a new system or a process or a teaching, or I deal with my behaviors. And yes, we need to change our behaviors. But if you've ever tried to change behaviors to get a different outcome, it's successful for a little while. Like we can do pretty well. But ultimately, we end up typically back where we were because we didn't address where the behavior came from, which is the belief.
Yeah.
If we don't understand the belief that drives the behavior, we'll never get a transformational or sustained change in our outcomes. So
Yeah.
we've got to deal with the limiting beliefs that have become ceilings in our lives and replace them with limitless beliefs. And by that, I don't mean anything's possible. I mean, it's this idea that there is something greater than where I'm at, that this belief was a lie. It's true, the experience was true, but how I interpreted it, the belief I created isn't true.
Yeah.
I'm not bad. That thing that happened to me wasn't my fault. All women weren't like this girl, but I created that belief that caused me to then act a certain way. So I have to go back and go, okay, what's that belief? That belief was a lie. I'm good. I'm a good young man. I have potential and ability. This wasn't my fault. I'm smart. I'm capable. And all women aren't like this. There's amazing women out there who are powerful and awesome and supportive and partners for me. And so once I started shifting that belief, I started acting differently.
Yeah.
And I started getting better results.
Mm-hmm.
But we hold beliefs. Here's the last thing I'll say, and then we hold these beliefs for so long that we call them normal.
Yeah.
We don't even realize we have them. And my question to people when I coach them is this: what if that normal that you're holding on to isn't normal? What if it's not?
Good way to think.
You don't have to believe it right now, but would you be willing to question it? That maybe the normal that you're living in isn't normal.
Yeah.
And if they'll say, yeah, I'll challenge it, man, then we're gone. We can do some work.
Yeah. I think so many people hang on to a belief as like a comfort blanket, like they're comfortable in it because they want that excuse to not be able to move on. Like the first example that comes to my mind when I said that was someone that, is graduating high school and no one in their family has ever went to college or went to any type of schooling out there. And they're holding on to that belief that people like them, they can't go to college or they can't do anything else after. So they're just meant to do minimal jobs and kind of struggle throughout life. And they kind of just hold on to that as like a comfort blanket when really you just have to let that go and realize that's just something that you were brought into. That doesn't define you.
Man, you just said it. It doesn't define you, but we allow these things to define us. And here's something I say in my coaching. Our past was never meant to define our future. It was meant to inform it and refine it, but not define it. And when we allow our past to be a lens by which we view our future, we end up settling for a less than life. So the future hasn't happened. We're going to get off this podcast and we're going to go to the rest of our day or whatever, tomorrow, the next 2 hours. It hasn't happened yet. Yeah. It's a blank page. Now, the circumstances, environment, people, there's certain things that are already set that I don't control. But how I choose to show up in that space that hasn't been written yet is 100% my control. How I choose to respond to the things that might come my way in this future that hasn't happened yet is 100% my choice. Mm-hmm. So I'm the author of my future. But, I tell people you need to pick up the pen and start writing because we don't, and we let someone else write our future, our circumstances, the environment, the pain, the brokenness, this whole thing. And now someone else is writing our future and we just accept it. And I was like, don't accept it. The future hasn't happened. You get to be the author of it. Don't let your past be that limiting belief that holds you back from a future that is so much greater than what you might be experiencing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. I think this all the time. Like I call it the societal checklist. Like, so you have to be, have a job by a certain age. You have to own a house at a certain age. Yes. You have to be married at a certain age. Like it keeps going. And there's not just by age group. There's things in life that society has told you have to do by a certain time. And those are just beliefs that you grow up with and you kind of think that's the correct way, but you're the only person living your life. So why do you have to let someone else determine what your next chapter is or whatever your next move is?
Yeah, that's so powerful. I mean, we don't even realize it's happening.
No.
Right. And so here's the other thing that I've noticed in my coaching. There's some people that are so successful in certain areas of their lives. Like they're killing it. They do really well. But then there's another area over here that they are just spinning their tires. I mean, I've got one guy that I coach, CEO, multi-million dollars, businesses, sold, I mean, real estate, does a great job. Fifth marriage. Right? What he says though, but the process, he's tired of that, right? He's like, this isn't okay, but he just says, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. So his language starts to say, hey, this is just how I am in relationship, just how it is, how it's always going to be. And so I just gotta, this is it. And I'm like, well, what if that's not it though? Does it have to be it? And so we started digging into the beliefs he had about relationships. And he started realizing, oh my gosh, I've had this understanding that this is how relationship works. This is the role of a man. This is the role of a woman. This is what we do. And he had this mindset that was so locked and rigid, but he didn't recognize it. And it just kept hitting against these people who he loved each of them. He thought, this is it. Yet he had this mindset that wouldn't allow him to see life in a different manner. And he didn't even know that the lens he was looking at in his relationships was marred and marked by his past.
Yeah. I feel like going into that process, you have to be pretty open and you have to be able to take criticism, because seeing that or hearing that from someone else of how you've been living your life, and it might sound negative, and some people probably take a very bad offense to that, because that's what they believe their whole life. And I think
so here's the thing with coaching for me is it is a partnership. It is a do with, right? Not a do for. And so you're right. There's people like that, but they'll never end up in a relationship with me or anyone else because they're not at that place that they're ready to have that conversation.
Yeah.
So typically when I get to someone, or, we start with a holistic kind of self look and what their vision and their values are and what they want to do. And we get to that place of those places in their life where they kind of put off to the side and say, I don't deal with these things because they're not happy places, they're hard places. But they want and they feel there's something more. They feel this longing to, so you may have people that listen and watch. We were talking a little bit, right? That may be in transition. Maybe they're in one industry or business and they want to expand it or grow, or they're thinking, man, I want to do my own thing, right? I want to step into this space. And so there's this place they are and this place they want to be, and there's that gap, right? And what's the difference at the people that jump the gap and the people that don't? People that typically don't make that shift or that change, they've got fear. Fear's not wrong. I mean, it's real. But that fear is typically based on a limiting belief or a lie that they've told themselves or been told about their ability and their qualifications to do something that has risk in it. And you said it, we like our comfort zones.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the problem with a comfort zone, if we stay there too long, it's actually a danger zone.
Yeah.
Right? Because we get comfortable and we settle. Have you ever been in the mountains? Have you ever gone like through the windy, and you see these overlooks, you come to this overlook and it's like, you pull off and you're like, man, this is like really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do we camp out there and never leave?
No. Keep going.
If we keep driving, what do we run across?
More and more.
Another overlook, even more amazing from a different angle than the one we were just at. But to do that, we have to leave something beautiful, something comfortable, something amazing, and risk and go, I think there might be something greater up a little bit higher. But many of us never leave that one scenic overlook. We get comfortable there and we camp and put up our shingles and our couch, and man, and there's nothing wrong with that ultimately.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to tell people that's wrong and you shouldn't. If you're good there, then be there. That's okay. But typically there's something inside of us that says, at least for a while, man, I wonder if there's anything else. I feel like there's more.
Yeah, being in your comfort zone is completely fine until you want to do that next move and you're trying to figure out why you can't get to that next move. And that is like the easiest thing to change in your life. Knowing that you're comfortable is I think that's probably the biggest thing why people take so long or they don't do that leap into their next career. I like I said off camera, a lot of these guests that I've had on the Pro Series, I don't do this on purpose. It just kind of naturally happens. But a lot of my guests came from the corporate world. and they've segued into their passion job or whatever they're doing now that they've always wanted to do. And if they don't take
Yeah.
that leap, and I think a lot of the bottom line reasoning on why they move is they kind of suck up the comfort zone thing, kind of push it to the side, and they knew they had to take some type of risk to get there and change something in their life. But
Can
it
I
does take
can
time
I
sometimes.
can I ask you a question? Because I think there's an analogy here, and I because I love, part of what your career is in your world is interior design, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you work with people who have been in their home for a long time,
Hmm.
right? And it's stayed pretty much the same. They move the furniture around a little bit, change some pictures, but pretty much it's stayed the same and it's very comfortable. It's home.
Hmm.
But something in them stirs and they like, man, I'd like to change. I'd like
Yeah.
something different, right? And they reach out to you, but it's scary. How
Oh
do
yeah.
you get them from that comfort zone to take that leap into something new or different that you want to train? They want to, but they don't. There's like, maybe I'll slip. This is better here. How do you get them to actually say, let's do this? Let's pull the trigger. Let's recreate this whole space.
Yeah. Something that we always talk about, like designer to designer, we always talk about like being a designer, you're also kind of like a marriage counselor and a counselor because you are trying to figure out why they called you and figure out what all of the limiting factors and the roadblocks and why they are doing what they're doing. And being able to have them trust me first before
Yeah.
I show them a design, anything is the biggest thing. And then when I'm in there and I'm showing them stuff, I'm actually going through their life, like how they use a kitchen. I'm going to say kitchen, for example.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Use this drawer? How do they use their oven? How do they use their refrigerator? If it was laid out this way, can they have their all three kids sitting at the island type of deal? And showing it's like it's an actual function thing, not just design. It's trying to make their life better. The actual, I think that's the biggest thing that kind of puts designers ahead of other designers is they're putting function first and they're putting all the pretty stuff at the end because
So, so I think what I heard you say, and because we've done some redesigns and built a couple homes, right?
yeah.
And what I've loved about the designers I've worked with, the architects and designers, is they were able to cast a vision for something for me to see something that I couldn't see on my own.
Yeah.
Because I needed them to cast so functionality. It's not just functionality. What you said something. You said, "Hey, we move this and do this and do this. We can get our kids around the table." Oh, wait a minute now. You just casted a vision for an emotion of
Yeah.
something greater, right? You're calling me forward into another reality or space that I couldn't go. This is good.
Yeah.
Show me that that can be better. And I think what you guys do is you cast a vision in the coaching world, in our personal lives, in our space of personal growth. The critical element for anyone to move from where they are to where they want to be, they have to have a clear vision of where they want to go. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if they can't see it, they'll never know if they've arrived.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
so my job is to help draw out of them, like you're saying, you're going to ask questions, you're going to learn about their family, what's important to them, what do they like, what are they after, right? All those things. That then allows you to go, okay, let me cast a vision of how we get there.
Hmm.
And if they catch that vision, I don't know, but the price isn't going to matter a whole lot. I mean, it will, but ultimately they're like, that's what I'm after.
Absolutely.
And now they'll do whatever to get there. Same thing in our personal growth in life. If we can capture a vision of where they want to go, something greater than where they are, not that where they are is bad, it's good. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be bad. It's okay, it's good. But there's something greater. If we can cast a vision, they will move heaven and earth to begin to go after that vision
Yeah.
because they're moving towards something greater that they've captured or seen because you've helped draw them to that place.
Hmm.
That's personal growth. That's the growth of our business. Anyone that's wanting to risk to go somewhere, the reason they typically don't is fear. Why do they have fear? Because they're stuck in the past with things back here and they don't have a vision of what could be.
Yeah.
They feel it, they just can't see it.
Yeah. And that comes
Is
with the
that
risk. Yeah. Like with the risk thing, they just see something going wrong and they don't see it going right.
and you just need
Oh, that's
someone
so
there.
good.
They need someone there to show them what that the good that can come out of that risk and not see the failure. Because if you go into something knowing that you're going to fail, you're going to fail. I mean, that's just what your
Yes.
mind does to yourself. You trick
That-
yourself out, and
you-
you're just going to completely trick yourself out and make you fail.
It's exactly what this limiting belief process does to us. It is, we get what we give energy to. We get what we see. So I tell people when we're creating vision, I said, tell me what you want. You know what? 99% of the time, the first thing they'll tell me is when I say, hey, tell me what your vision, what do you want? First thing they'll say in some capacity is, well, I don't want this. Their first response is, let me tell you what I don't want. And I'm like, great, but what do you want? Well, what do you mean? This is what I don't want. I know. What do you want? It is sometimes so hard for people to articulate what they want. And if they're only running from something, because when I say what I don't want, that means I'm running from something.
Yeah.
And we will always end up back in that which we run from. But if we're running to, if we have a vision of what we're going to, what I do want, then I have a better chance of actually achieving it, because it's like our GPS. I'm in Texas. I love Mexican food. We've got over 4,000 Mexican restaurants in Houston, Texas. You don't put in your GPS Mexican restaurant. It's like, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
If I want to go to a really good Mexican restaurant, I put in my GPS Hugo's and the address. Without it, who knows where I'm going to end up? I'm not even going to risk, because there's no telling what that looks like.
Exactly.
Same thing in our lives. The more we can specify and look where we want to go, create that vision and appetite for what we're after, the greater chance we have to arrive.
Oh, yeah.
But we've never thought about it that way. It's like, oh, I don't want this. I don't want to be like my parents. I don't want to be like them. I don't want to do that. Great. But what do you keep doing? But I keep doing that stuff. I keep that. Why do I keep? Because our subconscious doesn't understand I don't want. It just hears, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be like this. And so it goes, hey, let's go do that.
Yeah.
Right. And so if we can flip that, which is what you do, and you get them to see something, now they're like, okay, I'll risk a little bit. Then trust. I trust you a little bit. Okay. And they just keep moving into that new reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be kind of like a borderline what you believe in. When it comes to manifesting, are you a believer in that?
So I'm going to tell you, it depends on how you define that. So I'm going to define this for you. So I'm going to say yes, but I want everyone who just heard me say that's going, oh, I don't believe just because I say something like, I want $1 million, I'm going to get $1 million. Here's what I know scientifically. This is science, not faith or spirit, not ookie spook, not something like that. The science is what we give energy to grows. Okay. So our subconscious and our words matter. And the best way to give an example is if I asked you to think about something that you don't like, something that, is heavy, something that you don't want to do, right? And I say, and you start thinking about this experience, what happens to our body and our countenance? Everything kind of gets,
tense, yeah.
Man. If you just start saying, I can't do this, and I don't like this, I don't want this, I'm never any good at this, even hearing me say, even your listeners, hey, I can't, I don't want to, I've never been able to, I'm so bad at, just hearing those words, my body feels it's like, oh man, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I start saying, you can do anything you put your mind to, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're powerful, you are or I am smart, I'm talented, I'm actually really gifted. My energy, my countenance, my face, everything starts picking up. I'm not making it. I feel that energy moving me forward.
Yeah.
That's science. That's natural. There's nothing weird about that. That's what happens. So when I think about manifesting, I believe that as we declare truth over our lives, a future and a hope, the energy of our body begins to move us in that direction. Our subconscious says, hey, Rick said he's really smart. Okay, my son, 26, 20, he's 29. He's taking a test. He had a really hard life growing up. really hard times, suicide attempts, just identity, really wrestled through a season of his life. So he did not have a normal school experience that we would all go through. He was in homeschool with me for a while, then he was in a private school. And so the school wasn't hard. It was fairly easy. He graduated, went through high school, did good, but the environment was not very challenging. It was supportive of him to be able to succeed as he was working through all the things in his life, right?
Yeah.
So now he's 29 and he's going after a certification in aerospace. We're in Houston with NASA and he wants to work there, right?
Yeah.
So he's been through the practicum. He got a scholarship to go through the practicum. He's been through all the classes, did great with the classes, is executing on site on the job as an internship, right? They said, man, you know this stuff, you're doing really well. Now you got to take the test. You've got to take the final to get the certification. They've already said you can do it, you know it, you're great, but here's a test. His first thought was, Dad, I got to take a test. Yeah, I'm not any good at tests. I've never passed tests. I don't like tests. I don't know what I've never had. And he's never had a test that had weight on it. Like, you have to do this to get to this. That's never been in his world. So he didn't have the history to go, oh, I can overcome this. Yeah, you got to do this to get to that. That was never part of his life. So now he's hit with this test that says, you got everything you need. This job that's waiting for you over here with a career and a salary, you got to pass through this door. Failed. Overwhelmed. I told you, Dad. I'm no good at this. I've never been good. This is not fair. I know how to do the work, right? So all that stuff, mindset. This is the energy that he's telling himself. He's getting ready to go that day before, and he's like, I talked to him. I'm trying to build him up, and you could feel the energy. It's like, oh, I got to go take this effing test, right? And then it's his head, right? He's like, and I'm like, man, this is not going to go well. Okay. So it didn't go well. So he and I sat down and we started talking. I said, listen, do me a favor and just trust me. I want you to start declaring some truth over your life, that you are smart, because he's really intelligent. He's got a memory that's crazy. I mean, he can remember details of his childhood I have no clue about, right? So he reads, and he's very, very smart. He just doesn't believe it. So I said, I just want you to start declaring over your life that you are smart, that you can pass these tests, that you will pass this test, that you are able to walk in the career and the job that you want. So he did this for a week. And I said, now, when you go into that test, when you get up in the morning, I want you to say, I'm going to kill this test. This is easy for me. I know this stuff. He studied, he did everything, and I know it's in there. I know everything's in there. And so he just went through that process. I said, just trust me. And then call me, I'm going to talk, we'll pray together. But I just want you to declare life over yourself. He goes in, he passes the test. He's freaking out. Oh my God, it works. What? I don't he's going through all this. I said, listen, this isn't about manifest something. You changed your energy and you tapped on what was already in you and spoke life over yourself instead of death. So your subconscious responded and said, oh, we're smart. I know this. It didn't take the place of study and the work he had to do that was already in there, but that was all in there for the first test. There was nothing different in the knowledge inside of him from test 1 to test 2. The only difference was the mindset of the belief, he said, that I can do this. So when I think about manifesting, that's what I believe is possible. I believe we settle for less than in our lives, whatever that looks like for you, because we fail to declare life over ourselves. We accept something less, and we don't even realize we're doing it. So when I think about manifesting, that's when I coach people, that's what I'm talking about with them. Listen, I'm not talking about, hey, I wanted to play professional basketball. I played high school and college, a little bit after college. That was my deal. I was pretty good, but I wasn't that good. No amount of manifesting or self-talk or anything I could do is going to make me be a professional basketball player.
Yeah.
I just didn't have it.
Yeah, I think
that's the difference between people in that manifestation world, that they just think, Because there are people who get $1 million, like they're doing all this stuff, but they're believing they can. They're executing and doing something, and they're getting the results of that. It's not this magic. It's actually the work and the time and the energy and the belief that they put in that they actually can do it, and they don't take no for an answer.
Exactly. That's something
that, anyways, that's a long answer for what you said, but
no, I completely agree with manifesting. I think it's something like the media that has kind of completely brainwashed us of what manifesting actually is. Like winning the lottery is a good example. But one thing I've talked about this in a previous episode, but this belief and mindset thing, I wish this was taught to kids in elementary school. Like when your mind's starting to change, because kids, they grow up with this and they already have it in them to get rid of beliefs. They have it in them to think they are the best. And then sometime in their elementary school years or middle school years, something happens that knocks them down. And that's when that's why mental health is such a big thing right now.
Yeah.
Because it's not being taught on how to deal with it.
That's
and it's
so
just
good.
so sad because they're not going through life without knowing how to help themselves.
I had a conversation with a mom this morning about that with her kids. We were talking about stuff, and I've got a leadership breakfast I'm doing tomorrow around my book, The Born Limitless Idea, and this limitless mindset and beliefs. And we were just talking about, I said, what's powerful is if you can begin to speak life into your kids. Here's the thing, anxiety, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. It comes from emotions and feelings, which we were created to feel and have. They're not bad. They're actually part of our DNA that's really a blessing and a gift. Our problem is how we interpret our emotions and feelings, not that we have them. So we interpret a feeling or an emotion and an experience in a certain manner. We define it. How we define it then determines the energy and the emotion that we continue to feel and the direction we go with it. Mm-hmm. Right? And so we can shift how we interpret experiences, because trauma and bad things are going to happen. Conflict is going to happen. All of this stuff is part of life. It's real. It causes an emotion and a feeling. That's real, 100% real. But it doesn't mean how we define it is true. Yeah. It doesn't mean I'm bad. Doesn't mean I can't. Doesn't mean I won't. Doesn't mean I did something. It may mean that, but probably doesn't.
No.
And if I can stop it there, that anxiety shift goes. Anxiety and all that is negative thinking projected to a future state. That's real. And I'm not saying there's not chemical. So my kids have got some stuff, and I understand that there are serious chemical imbalances. There are things where we need medication. I'm not saying that all anxiety, all bipolar, all depression is all just in your head. You can overcome it.
Yeah.
Please, I don't want anyone to hear me say that. Mm-hmm. But I believe a lot of it, the majority of it, stems from our inability and lack of understanding of how to shift our beliefs about something. And so we feel something, it creates fear in us, and we project that fear into a future state that hasn't happened yet. And the minute we put that fear into a future state of what it could potentially happen, we are stuck and we spiral around something that hasn't even happened yet. Mm-mm. But it will, because manifest. We will manifest that negative reality because all of our energy and all of our emotion and everything is about that. And we will end up in that place or someplace similar. Does that make sense? I hope your listeners understand. I'm not trying to say there aren't things where we need help. There are places that we do. I totally am for that.
I agree with you. No, I think it's the same way. And then same with like self-confidence, the whole mindset. There's a reason why someone isn't comfortable in a certain situation with, social anxiety or any of that type of stuff. There's a reason why there is. And it's just so sad to see, a student or something that are in a social situation, and you could see that they freeze up, and you just feel that over top of them, but they're not taught on how to get rid of that mindset and what was that mindset that got them into that situation. It's sad.
We're quick to, my daughter's going through this because she's had a rough go of it as well. And so a lot of mental health challenges that she's working through. She's 25 and just trying to rework some of her experiences and what her future can look like. And I think we're quick. Again, I want people to hear me clearly, I think we're quick to diagnose an emotional state as something other than what it really is. I'm not saying that it couldn't be something, but hey, my daughter is manifesting in her life a lot of bipolar symptoms at 25, manic and right. But she also experienced 4 deaths in her life in the last 12 months.
Mm.
So loss and grief and processing and really significant things, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she hits her ceiling. She can't take anymore. And she's just all over the place emotionally and just has no way to process this. So she goes to the doctor to get some help. And the first thing, oh, you're bipolar and you have this, this, and this. And I'm saying, you are presenting that way, but I'm not sure if that's what you have, because your whole life that hasn't been true.
Mm-hmm.
You are acting in a certain way because of the trauma you've experienced in your life. So can we work on how to process the trauma and see, as we process it, if the manifestation of this manic and the whole world that you're living in begins to shift or adjust. If not, man, let's get this taken care of. And you know what? In the meantime, here's some medications they're giving her to try to get her stable. 100%, go rock it out. But let's not own this label and then say, this is the rest of my life looks like this. Maybe, but I don't want to start there. Yeah. I want to start with going, hey, let's process all the stuff you've been through, that anyone would reach a breaking point at any age. And let's start dealing with that and see, as we layer back, if you feel different.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's what we've been working on. And she's realizing, yeah, I need to process this. Mm-hmm. I need to be able to own this pain and the sorrow and the loss and the grief, but it doesn't define me as being depressed, or, you know what I mean? So it's like, but we're so quick to do some things that I'm wondering, maybe if we slow down just a little bit, maybe we'll work through some things that are actually more sustainable in freedom.
Yeah. You just need to stop and take a step back and analyze what you just went through. Really.
And we need people that can help do that in a healthy manner, that are for us, not for something else, right? And it's hard to find those kinds of people that know how to help us navigate through the challenges of our lives.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Well, Rick, I want to finish up on where people could follow you, your book, where they can buy your book. And give us all that information. Okay. Well,
man, first of all, Eric, thank you for letting me be here today and allowing us to just visit and ramble a little bit. This is my heart of adding value to people to help them get to whatever it is they want to go and break through these limiting beliefs. So that's how I want to spend the next 15 years of my life, right? Is helping people understand this. So that's where the book came from, this idea of Born Limitless. It's all about crushing limiting beliefs. It's about releasing an infinite mindset and discovering our true potential. And so it's a small 125 pages, simple framework of just the belief system at a real basic level. And so that's where I'm living right now. You can pre-order my book. It's already out there at bornlimitlessbook.com. And that's a platform we created to pre-order. I'm also giving away some master classes and a community. And there's a lot of things, if you order the book, that we're going to bless people with if they pre-order the book. So all transparency, I'm trying to get on a bestseller list. I've never written a book before. I don't know what that looks like, but I have an organization that said it's a good book. Let's try to do this. And here's the way you go about doing it. So I'm following a process. And it's a little overwhelming. So all you guys that are listening, hey, go buy a book, ask a couple friends to buy a book and help me get this thing to a bestseller list. But the ultimate goal is to get the message out as much as I can. So bornlimitlessbook.com. The other place is social media, is my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is my name, Rick Torrison, but then my Instagram. A lot of stuff on Instagram. In fact, if they go to Instagram, which is Rick Torrison, and you direct message me a limiting belief, like, here's a limiting belief I've had about myself, right? Or one I've overcome. I'll message you back and send you a 1-page kind of framework of how you can begin to overcome that limiting belief. I'll just give it to you, right? But that's a great way for people to just connect with me, see what I'm doing. All my book release stuff is in there. I'd just love for people to connect and share their stories with me. And if I can help them go through that or in the process, that'd be great. So Instagram, Rick Torrison, LinkedIn, Rick Torrison, and then bornlimitlessbook.com is where they can go purchase a copy of the book today.
That's awesome. Well, Rick, thank you so much for hopping
Yeah,
on the
man.
Pro Series podcast. I'm glad we had some time to sit down and talk, and you're always welcome back on.
Man, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. And God bless you guys. And I hope there was some good value for your listeners. And if there's anything I can do to serve you or them, just let me know.
Awesome. Rick, well, thank you. Have a great night.
All right, you too. Thanks, sir.